What is up, everybody? We are back once again to bless your ears and grace your screens with another exciting, action-packed episode of the Rundown, an official podcast of the Washington football team. I am Zach Selby, staff writer for the Washington football team. This is our editor, Kyle Stackpole, editor of WashingtonFootball.com. And guys, it's the offseason. A lot of people have some great questions about draft, free agency, but before we do that, we're going to be a little reflective for this podcast. We're going to be looking back at some things we learned, some things we didn't learn. We're going to look at some of the superlatives that we had last year. We're going to look a little bit into the future, but not that much. But Kyle, tell me, how are you feeling? I know it's been, 4 or 5 days since Washington lost to the Buccaneers. What's been going on with you, man?
Yeah, I always felt like I was going to be sad when the season was over. And while I was disappointed because, you love covering games during the season, the encouragement and just positivity and optimism for this team going forward is insane. I mean, if you thought about what Washington was going to accomplish this year, they basically did everything a Washington football team could have asked for, aside from find the franchise QB. That's really the only thing that people are still looking for is, hey, who is that QB? But everything else, I mean, yeah. I don't know. I mean, I've only been around this team for 2 seasons, but I can guess that this is some of the biggest amount of optimism for a team going into a new year, or even after a loss, that it has been in a long time, just because of how young this team is and what they can accomplish. So I'm still feeling good. I'm ready to keep doing these podcasts once a week, because even though it's the off season, there is a lot going on.
There really is. And I think as exciting as last offseason was, this offseason might be even more exciting for us, just because now we have some answers and we know what to look forward to. And just based on what we were able to do with the roster that we had last year, almost beating the Bucs, we're in a really good spot. But so I usually start the show with the plugs whenever I'm the host. But Kyle, why don't you hit us with the plugs today? Get you to start off right with the plugs.
Oh man, all right, I'll do the plugs. Official podcast of the Washington football team. You can catch us wherever you get your podcasts: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, TuneIn, Google Play, Stitcher. You could also watch these episodes. So I guess you could watch all the episodes going forward on YouTube.
Yeah.
And we will continue to do them once a week. You can also listen to us on WashingtonFootball.com and the app. Follow Zach on Twitter, Zach D. Selby. Me on Twitter, Kyle F. Stackpole, and Stevie Stats on Twitter at, I don't remember.
_Stevie.
Cats _ Stevie. I was going to say Stevie _ Cats. So maybe you need to make a second account so people can search either.
Well, no, this is my second account.
Oh, well, you got a burner?
Wow.
Possibly.
Whoa. All right, we're going to find that out, and then I will reveal that.
We need to put in our deep investigative journalism skills to the test here to figure out Stevie's burner account.
We got some time now, so. But I think I covered it, right?
Yeah. You got to remember, we bring the best content all the time, every time. And make sure you rate, review, subscribe wherever you find this podcast, because we like to give you the best content we can, and we care about you guys. You help keep the lights on, you help pay the bills. So keep it coming, positive, negative. We want to hear it. So let's dive into this show now, because we do have some good news. The 2021 opponents have been finalized, and there's I'd say it's a little bit harder than last year, just to say the least. I mean, you got guys like the Packers, you got the Cowboys, the NFC East opponents, obviously, the Panthers again. I mean, just to name a few. But Kyle, when you look at this schedule, what are some of your big takeaways?
The biggest takeaway is that it's going to be hard.
Yes,
really hard. So I'm looking at it right now, and so our home opponents, we have Saints, they're in the playoffs, Bucs in the playoffs, KC in the playoffs, Seattle in the playoffs, Chargers, they weren't in the playoffs, but with Justin Herbert at QB, they have a lot of talent.
Yep.
The away opponents are much easier. So you have the Panthers, you have the Falcons, Las Vegas Raiders, Broncos, and then you have Green Bay, which is going to be tough. But so it's definitely a harder schedule than last year. And Coach, it was actually interesting that Coach Rivera, after they won the division, said that. Like he was truthful. He was transparent about how, hey, winning this division means that we are considered, at a higher tier, and we're going to have to compete against the best in other divisions.
Yep.
But I think the other thing is that even though they're playing these tough teams, they should be regarded as a top team going forward. And also they should, I mean, who's going to be the favorite in the NFC East next year? Maybe the Cowboys if Dak Prescott comes back, but Washington will be up there 100%, especially what they do in free agency, assuming they get some, big name signings, guys who can really add something to this offense and defense. So it's going to be hard. But I also think it's going to be good for this young team to be challenged early and often throughout the season. And I think it's going to help not only next season, but also going forward. So I view it as a positive, where some other people might look at it and say, damn, where are we going to find enough wins to win the NFC?
Yeah, you pretty much hit it all. I'll just say that telling that we need to remember there'll be 5 Super Bowl winning quarterbacks on this schedule, 6 who have at least been to a Super Bowl. In Matt Ryan, who lost infamously to the New England Patriots and Tom Brady. I mean, this defense is really going to be tested. I mean, it's number two in the league. Finished that season with second best in a lot of categories. So this defense is going to have to show how good it really is. And if they can survive 5 Super Bowl winning quarterbacks, including Tampa Buccaneers again, and Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson, I mean, they deserve definitely to get all the credit that they're going to get from that. Now, the other thing is, looking into next season, is Ron Rivera has decided we're going to bring in some future contracts like every team does every year. And there was a lot this year. I think there is at this time there are 17 with the addition of Justin Phillips yesterday. So Kyle, you wrote a story on this, and I think you talked to a couple of players, and I think Rivera himself for this. So what are you getting from how many players that Washington has signed heading into 2021?
Yeah, definitely. I think the biggest thing is that throughout the year, Rivera has talked about competition at every position, everywhere. And he also talked about having young contributors because he wants the young guys to play early and have that experience. And I think signing these 17 guys, 14 of which were on the practice squad at some point this past year, is huge for that. And I think it was Jeff Badette, wide receiver, had the quote of, people didn't see it, but when Washington was making that run, they won 4 in a row, they won the division. The practice squad guys were pushing the first teamers and the active roster to really be better. I think Coach Rivera and the coaching staff saw that and decided that we want to keep these guys around. We want to give them an opportunity in OTAs and training camp to show that they deserve to have a spot on this roster. So I think it's really encouraging, and it just shows how Rivera is trying to build this team.
Yeah, I agree. And I think one thing that I appreciate about Rivera is that if you show that you can play, he's going to give you an opportunity no matter where you are in status in the league. I mean, look what happened with Taylor Heineke. I mean, Scott Turner pretty much took him around wherever he went, and then Rivera saw the one game that he had with the Panthers and decided to bring him in there just in case they ever needed a quarterback in a pinch. So, I mean, you got guys like Javon Lee, you mentioned Badette. I mean, all these guys have shown that they can be a part of the roster one way or the other. And I mean, as long as you bring in the core, the guys that can push you, that's the most important thing, because consistency is how you win in the league. Now, let's look even more further ahead before we head into the break here and talk about the draft picks. Now, Washington will be drafting 19th overall. I think you said it was the first time, the highest since, what was it, 2000 and – you remember what it was?
I didn't say that.
You actually did. You actually did in the story. I'm looking at it right now.
I did.
Yeah. So maybe you didn't. Yeah. No, you didn't. But either way,
did I forget what I wrote?
Either way, they're drafting 19th overall, which is it's higher than what they've normally been doing the past few years. Now, we don't know exactly
since probably 2015 when they last made the playoffs.
Yeah, we'll say that. Looks like they have 8 draft picks here. Now, 2/3 and 2/7. Now, Kyle, you've seen what Rivera and Kyle Smith and all these other guys can do with some draft picks here. Now, what kind of opportunity is that going to give you to expand on that young core that they have?
Yeah, I think having a second round pick this year and 2/3 is huge, because last year they had the number 2 pick and then didn't have another pick until the 3rd round.
Yep.
So that makes it tough. So I think this is their first class that, they they built. They traded different picks. They traded away Trent Williams for that third. They gave up a sixth for David Sharp and an additional seventh. So I think it's going to be a great draft. Having that second round pick is going to be huge. And I think Washington isn't going to be afraid to pick the best player available, even if it's at a position that we think is a strength. Because you look at Antonio Gibson last year, and people were wondering, why are you drafting this guy when you have all those running backs on the roster? And lo and behold, he is one of the best, offensive rookies in the league. So they won't be afraid about doing that. And I'm really excited to see who they choose at 19, because that is a spot where a ton of guys are going to be available.
Yeah, totally agree. And you pretty much said it all, so I'm not going to add anything more to it. But we're going to take a quick break here. When we come back, we're going to dive into the exit interviews that includes a wide variety of topics, including Alex Smith, Ron Rivera, and a lot of other players. So stick with us, guys.
This winter, be confident in a rugged, all-wheel drive Honda SUV. Take control of the reliable CR-V, the versatile HR-V, the 8-passenger Pilot, or the adventurous Passport. With features like Honda Sensing, magic folding seats, and 3 different driving modes. Now is the best time to buy. Don't miss your chance to get a great deal on your favorite Honda SUV. See your local Honda dealer and take on winter today. Finch Services Incorporated, recognized in its industry as a world-class organization, is the exclusive supplier of John Deere golf and sports turf maintenance equipment for the Mid-Atlantic region. In business since 1945, Finch helps golf course and sports turf managers maintain some of the most exclusive playing surfaces in the region. Experience the Finch advantage for yourself. Contact one of our golf and sports turf sales specialists to see how we can help you maintain your field of dreams. Go to finchturf.com for more information.
Has your business been affected by COVID-19? Have you considered reducing or moving your office space? Then it's time to call Victory Van. We provide the best service and price with flexible options for your company's moving and storage needs. Visit victoryvan.com to get your free moving and storage quote today. For corporate storage and moving, it's always the right move to choose Victory Van. That's victoryvan.com. Victory Van Corporation, delivering excellence for 75 years and a proud partner of the Washington football team.
We're back here on the Rundown, an official podcast of the Washington football team. Be sure to check us out wherever you get your podcasts. Rate, review, and subscribe. Kyle, we're going to be diving into the exit interviews, and I think we talked to about, I want to say, a good chunk of the team, maybe like 10 or 12 guys. And yeah, I think one of the biggest ones that everyone wanted to hear about was Alex Smith. We didn't get a chance to hear from him after the Buccaneers game, and because he was out, he was ruled inactive with a calf injury. But he talked about a lot of things. He talked about the severity of his calf injury and how much he wanted to be out there and playing, and talked a little bit about his future. So, Kyle, what was the biggest takeaway from Alex Smith? And that's a lot. It's a big ask. There's a lot of big things. What did you take from Alex Smith?
I think the biggest thing would have to be the news regarding his future. And he said he wants to take a couple weeks to, talk it over with his family, kind of just think about it and decide whether he wants to keep playing. Because, I mean, when he first started this recovery, his ultimate goal was just to get onto the field. I mean, he said it throughout the whole process. He never looked past that. And now, not only did he return to the field, but he was 5-1 as a starter. He leads the team to the playoffs. Mm-hmm. He's able to win games like he had throughout his entire career. But it's also taken a huge toll on him and a huge toll on his family. So that's going to be something really interesting to follow these next couple weeks, because that's not only going to be a huge decision for him, but also the Washington football team. Because if he's on the roster, you assume he's going to have a chance to compete for that number one spot. And if he doesn't, you have to look elsewhere. So that was the biggest takeaway for me.
Yeah, I think Alex wants to be a starter in the league wherever he's at, because he's proven that he can. 5-1 as a starter, help lead the team to the playoffs. I mean, if they didn't have Alex Smith, there's a good chance they wouldn't have made it. I mean, you don't know what Kyle Allen would have brought, because he was hurt and he would have been out all year. But I think that's the biggest thing, is you don't really know what his future is going to be. And it's weird because his future depends so much. It hinges on Washington's future in a lot of ways. Like, they're very linked in a lot of ways. And I think the biggest conversation that they have to have is, does Alex Smith want to win a Super Bowl, and does Ron Rivera think they can win a Super Bowl with Alex? I think that's going to be the biggest thing. But let's move on into Rivera. Now, Rivera talked a lot about some good things as well. I mean, talked about how close he thought they were, about how some of the pieces that they had, about reflecting on the season overall. And I mean, he talked about being on the way up and how they're really close. I mean, do you think that the team is close to being more of a perennial playoff contender?
I think they definitely are. I don't necessarily believe that the coaching staff thought that just coming in, because they had so many new players and they didn't know what they had. But after the way this defense performed, after the emergence of Antonio Gibson, J.D. McKissick, Logan Thomas, Terry McLaurin establishing himself as a number one wide receiver, I think they realize now that they're a couple pieces away, which they can pick up in free agency of the draft, that could make that. I mean, their defense could be championship caliber, and then you just need the offense to be average to really, make a run at the playoffs. I mean, you want it to be better, but Washington's offense was one of the worst in the league this year, and they still won 7 games and challenged the Bucs. So, I think he's right. He's right that they're on the way up, and there's a lot to be excited about. And the other thing is they don't have to sign that many free agents. I mean, you have Brandon Sheriff, Ronald Darby, I think Dustin Hopkins, Nick Sundberg, but a lot of other teams have a ton of free agents to figure out, and a lot of those, and they're gonna have to let a lot of those guys go. Washington's in a really good spot that they can basically keep all the guys that they want to keep to build this roster going forward before, a couple of years from now having to pay those defensive guys. So I think Washington's in a really good spot, and Rivera was just being honest.
Yeah, I mean, 5th most cap space available, which is huge considering that a lot of people are saying they don't know what the cap's going to look like with the COVID season and all that. He also talked about this team being one he'll remember the most fondly just because of how they had to fight and were resilient. Because, I mean, my God, going through coach with cancer treatment, COVID protocols, quarterback changes, other injuries at other positions. I mean, it was massive, the things they had to deal with. It was unprecedented in an unprecedented season, and that was really impressive to me. And then he also talked about quarterback being the number one priority for this team, which we all knew. And I'll just say this. If they decide not to go with Alex and they want to, or Alex retires and they want to find the quarterback in the draft, something I'm going to keep harping on from now until April. If you want a franchise guy, you got to go out and get it. Because look what the Chiefs did with Patrick Mahomes. They traded up, and you know what they got for him? They traded a first, a third, and one other first for Patrick Mahomes. And if you look back on it, that's a freaking steal in a lot of ways. So if, in my opinion, to me, that's how you find the franchise quarterback of the future in the draft. But we'll talk about that later on. The last thing before we get into another segment here. Did you have any other main takeaways from the press conference? We talked to guys like Moses, Kendall Fuller, KPL, Brandon Sheriff. I mean, what did you have any other main takeaways from those guys?
I think the biggest thing is just how much fun these players had this season, despite everything that happened, and what they think about this team going forward. I mean, Morgan Moses was saying how, this might not be the most talented team, but I wouldn't trade it for anyone because of the way they worked together and how close they were. And I mean, J.D. McKissick had a quote. Let me pull it up real quick. He said, I think greatness is what we could become. I mean, that's all you really need to hear. And then, I mean, I'll let you speak on it with KPL and Kendall Fuller, but both those guys too have been on teams that have won Super Bowls, and they can see the pieces here to, really build on that. So I think that was the biggest takeaway, just them loving this season and just loving Rivera. I mean, even the practice squad guys that I talked to, they're like, man, he's a hell of a coach. I love playing for him. He just has that effect on everyone he's around, and his ability to bring everyone together so quickly in such an unprecedented season is crazy. And it just speaks to the kind of coach and the kind of person he is.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at some of the things that like KPL and other guys who have been a part of playoff teams. And I even wrote about this, that you can find the story on watchfootball.com about how guys who have been to like part of Super Bowl teams like KPL and Thomas Davis, they've been talking about how close this team is to being a part of a sustainable winning culture and perennial playoff guys. I mean, like they're really, they think they're really close and the pieces are there. KPL even said he can tell when something is getting up to that point where they're going to be great, and they're right there. I mean, in his opinion. So I really think that just goes to show you like how close this young team really is when you have guys like that who are seasoned veterans and know what it's like to be part of the championship culture. That means a lot. That means a lot for a young team. But we're gonna take a quick break, and we're gonna be diving into the revisited Parkies, where we did in the bye week. Now they got a lot of attention. We all really like doing it, and we're gonna see maybe we'll have some same ones, maybe we'll have some different ones after 8 weeks of rethinking. So we'll dive into all that. So stick with us for the third segment, guys.
You can hear every Washington football team game on the Team 980 and streaming on the radio.com app. Listen to the Team 980 every day for expert analysis, Washington football guests, and your calls, along with hosts Kevin Sheehan, Washington football legend Brian Mitchell, Steve Zabin, and more on the official radio home of the Washington football team. Download the radio.com app and favorite the Team 980 today to listen on your phone or smart speaker. At RTS, game day strategy doesn't stop when the whistle blows. RTS delivers smarter, more responsible waste and recycling services. As an official partner of the Washington football team, RTS is connecting the team and FedEx Field with sustainable solutions to care for the community and the environment. RTS, a better waste company. Find out more at rts.com.
We're back here for the third segment on the Rundown, an official podcast of the Washington football team. I'll remind you again, rate, review, subscribe wherever you get your podcast. And Kyle, we're going to dive in, like we said, to the revisited Parkies. Now, we thought about looking back at what we did last year, but I mean, like I said, we got some different guys, we got the same guys, and if you really want to go back there and look at the podcast of what we picked, go do it because it's available wherever you get your podcast. So let's go ahead and jump into it right now. Let's not spare any more details. Let's go into offensive MVP. Who do you have for this, Kyle?
Yeah, so I'm going to go with the quarterback, one of 4 starting quarterbacks this year, not Taylor Heineke, Alex Smith. Ooh. Because you just think about where they would be without him, and the answer would kind of be screwed because he was able to come in immediately when Kyle Allen got hurt and not just, fill in as a guy, but, be the guy to lead them to a 5-1 record. And he did it by throwing for over 300 yards. He did it by managing the game. Mm-hmm. He won in a lot of different ways, and he just brought that calm and that confidence that this young offense needed. And even though he didn't finish the season out and he could have played in the playoff game, Washington wouldn't have been where it was if not for Alex Smith.
Yeah, I think talking of guys who would be screwed without him, I think it would be Terry McLaurin. I think that's going to be my offensive MVP because, I mean, if you look at what he did at 1,118 yards, first 1,000-yard season in his career, I mean, no matter who was back there at quarterback, he was the most reliable piece of this entire unit. And, I mean, without him, I mean, you saw what the offense was like without him. We think, with against the Seahawks, they really couldn't do all that much. And no, that's not the Seahawks, the Panthers. And either way, I mean, he should have been a Pro Bowler. He got snubbed for that. I mean, he's everything what you want out of a guy. He became a captain midway through the season. Everything you want out of this guy. I mean, he's going to do it. He's been a leader. He's been an example, even though he's young, for all these even younger wide receivers that are trying to be like him. So yeah, I mean, you got to go with Chef Terry, in my opinion. Now let's move on to defensive MVP. This probably want to be one of the few that we agree on, at least I think. So what do you have for this one, Kyle?
So I'm going to go with Chase Young. And I think, I mean, we've talked so much about his stats, so we don't necessarily have to go there. But the second half of the season, he was just a monster. He was a game wrecker. He was the leader of the defense, which is crazy to say because he didn't even finish his rookie year yet. But he got named a captain. He just brought the energy and he backed it up with his play. I mean, there's only so much you can say about this guy. I mean, the fact that he's running down the sideline when Cam Sims makes a catch. He's pointing to Taylor Heineke's back after he scores a touchdown. He's like the only defensive guy in that huddle, which is insane. He's everything that you could have wanted and more because of his leadership and the intangibles that he brings. So Chase Young is an easy one for me.
Let me ask you something real quick. Just off the top of your head, do you think Chase is the face of the franchise right now?
Yes.
I agree, 110%. And you mentioned there's a lot of things you can mention about Chase, but we're going to go ahead and do that right now. And he had a finished with a PFF grade 87.2. That's one of the highest ever for a rookie defensive an edge rusher. And then second among all edge rushers in forced fumbles, led rookies in sacks, 11th among all edge rushers in solo tackles with 33. I mean, that play, that moment of him pointing to Heineke's name, I saw some people saying to put that in the Louvre. I mean, it's one of the all-time great images of the entire season. And I mean, he was a leader before he was the captain. I mean, that goes without saying. I mean, he was leading people in huddles. He had an infectious energy that is so rare among rookies that it's hard to capture. And I'll say it again. They got everything they wanted. They probably got even more than they thought they were going to get out of Chase Young. When you're getting more value out of a number 2 overall pick, that just shows you that you made the right decision for your future. Best rookie. Now this is interesting because Chase Young you could make an argument for Chase Young being the best rookie, but Kyle, who do you think you got for this one?
Chase Young. I'll keep it short and sweet because we have a lot of awards, so I'm just going to say Chase Young.
I'll just say for people who's not named Chase Young, Antonio Gibson, 6th most efficient running back ahead of Derrick Henry and Dalvin Cook. I'm going to keep pounding that in there just to show how great he was because they were two of the top 5 rushers in the league this year. I mean, Derrick Henry rushed for 2,000 yards. Gibson had 795 yards. Probably would have eclipsed 1,000 yards if he hadn't been hurt. Had 11 touchdowns. I mean, he's a guy who helped the offense roll, and he's another guy that you saw whenever he was out, that offense was just not the same, especially later on in the year. So best free agents, we're going to move on into this one. There was a lot of good options here. I mean, Ron Rivera's gambles for the offseason proved to be pretty good in several categories here. But, I mean, it's hard to pick one, but Kyle, what do you have for this one?
I'm going to switch it up. I'll let you start with this one.
Okay. I'm going to go with Logan Thomas. I mean, that's probably the biggest gamble of them all because this is a guy who was a quarterback and you didn't really know what he was going to be. I mean, you could tell he had the potential. Pete Hainer said that multiple times. Ron Rivera said that multiple times. But you still didn't know the kind of talent that he was going to put out. And he rose high to the occasion. I mean, he had 670 yards. How long has it been since the tight end for Washington has had that kind of production? Just take a guess.
Wasn't it like 1995?
No, you're thinking of something different. Jordan Reed had 686 yards in 2016.
Oops.
So you're just a bit off on those numbers. But, I mean, either way, Logan Thomas, I mean, he's another guy. No matter who was back there at quarterback, he was the guy. He was the man. He was one of the most reliable pass catchers, led the team in receiving touchdowns. And, I mean, that some of the plays he had, I mean, he had over 100 yards against the Seahawks, and he was the best player on the field that game. I mean, there's no doubt about it. And when he can take over a game, he's one of the best tight ends in the league right now. And you didn't think you were going to say that heading into the 2020 season, but he certainly has done that. And you can't be more proud of a guy who's come into his own at the position.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I agree with you 100%. Logan Thomas. I did a bigger story about him before the Bucs game. You can still check it out.
It's a great story, by the way. Check that out, guys.
Appreciate it. WashingtonFootball.com. And the craziest part was that so he switched to tight end in 2016. And he started playing in 2017. So those first 3 years didn't even play a third of the snaps on offense. And this year becomes the 3rd tight end in franchise history, at least 70 receptions, at least 650 yards, at least 5 touchdowns. And he was playing every single snap down the stretch. So he wasn't just a receiving tight end. He was also a blocking tight end, which just goes to show how much he's improved on that category, having to move from quarterback to tight end. I mean, he's number one for me. A close second, I know he deserves a mention, would be J.D. McKissic, because he finished 2nd in the league among running backs in receptions and receiving yards behind Alvin Kamara, who's he's known as the best. Well, I guess Christian McCaffrey if he played, but Him and Kamara are the elite guys when it comes to being dual threat running backs. So McKissick had a great year too, and they were a huge part of the offense that really lacked star power wide receiver aside from Terry McLaurin. So they were big, and they're going to be a big part of Washington's team going forward.
I'm glad you mentioned J.D. McKissick. You know why? Because he is my recipient for the next category, the breakout player. J.D. McKissick, another free agency gamble that worked out for Rivera. He had 954 yards of total offense. That's career highs in both as a rusher and as a receiver. I mean, you mentioned it. I mean, he's only behind Alvin Kamara in receptions and receiving yards. And I mean, that's another position that kind of grew into his own once Alex Smith kind of became the quarterback. Because I mean, once Alex came in against the Giants, you look at what they did. I mean, a lot of the reason they were able to come back in that game and almost win was because of J.D. McKissick's relationship with Alex Smith. I mean, he was always there. He was always a reliable guy out of the backfield, whether he was running in slants or just even as a blocker, he was coming along really well. So again, another one of the guys, I think he's proven that he can be a key part of this offense, and he's been a multi-versatile guy. Honestly, what is going on over there, Kyle? What's going on?
My kitten just went into the screen.
Oh, that is adorable. That is so cute. Oh,
there she is.
Perfect.
All right.
Anyway, back to J.D. McKissick.
Stevie's annoyed. Stevie doesn't like cats.
Oh, yeah, that's another conversation we need to have with Stevie. But either way, J.D. McKissick, stud. Yeah, that's all I got to say about him.
All right, so I'm going to go with J.D. McKissick, a good one. I'm going to go with Cam Sims.
Okay.
So Cam Sims, undrafted rookie, 2018. He's been training camp MVP 3 years running. The guy makes plays in Richmond, or I guess this year in Ashburn. But this season, with the wide receiver group really decimated by some injuries, he comes in 32 receptions, 477 yards. The first 2 years, he had 2 receptions for 27 yards. And then when it matters most, he has 7 receptions for 104 yards in a playoff game. And I know he had some drops, and he definitely has to clean that up because he could have had easily over 150. But just the fact that the quarterbacks, whether it be Alex Smith or Taylor Heineke, Kyle Allen, they all trusted Cam Sims. And he really has put himself in a spot to be with this team going forward and be a contributor. I think Washington needs to get a number 2 receiver, whether it be in the draft or free agency. But Cam Sims has pretty much solidified himself as a number 3 and definitely a guy who's active on game day, especially what he's done on special teams. But it's just really good to see. We talk a lot about the new players doing well, but he's a guy that after a couple of years in the background, he finally got an opportunity, and he's really taken advantage of it.
Yeah, he was the guy that I had written in first, but then switched to J.D. McKissick at the very end. But I agree. I mean, you can't say much more about him. So let's move on real quick here to some more categories here. Let's roll through these guys. Most improved. For me, it's Montez Sweat. Yeah, because you could argue that he had a better season than Chase Young in a lot of categories. Led the team in sacks, and his technique, his get off, his burst, his explosion. He was a dominant guy, and Ryan Kerrigan even said it the other day. He's going to be hell for a lot of years to come here. Now, did you have any disagreement? You said Montez Sweat too, right?
I did, yeah. And it's like most improved. I guess you wouldn't think of Sweat off the top of your head because he did have a solid rookie year, but he was that much better. He continued that. He had a really good end of his rookie year, and he built on that this year. And with him and Chase, I mean, it's going to be hell for opposing quarterbacks, especially in the NFC East for the next decade.
Yeah, exactly. Whoever the coaches are going to be in the NFC East are going to be scared of Montez Sweat. So moving on, the Stevie Stats Underappreciated Award, because Stevie Stats, the woman behind the screens, is an underrated gem for us in this business. We really appreciate all that she does. So in the spirit of Stevie, who is the underappreciated player on Washington's roster?
Well, just as Stevie is starting to break out, become just an overall star, I got to go with Daron Payne because he was underappreciated all season long, and then against the Bucs, he's like, "Hey guys, remember me? I'm a pretty damn good player. He was incredible on defense. He did everything that he could to will that defense to get turnovers. He had a couple sacks. He had an interception this year. He is a guy who just he is a great run stopper, and he gets his hand up to bat down passes. He does everything right, and he doesn't get all the stats to show it, especially because when you have those guys along the defensive line that are sacking guys at the rate they are, there's only so many sacks to go around. But he is super consistent. He also, it seems like he never misses a game. I don't have the stats up, but he it seems like he's never on the injury report either. It's like you can just pencil him in for like 16 games and he's going to produce for you. So he was really impressive this year.
Yeah, I got to go with Ron Payne too. He's always been my guy. I love him. So we'll just keep that one short. You said it all. Best play next. I think we have the same ones, or at least I hope we have the same ones. What do you have for this one? We'll just keep it quick.
I don't think we have the same ones. I'm going to go with Alex Smith to Logan Thomas. Eagles game. End of the first half. They were down 14-10, I believe.
They were.
Drove down the field. An incredible catch by Logan Thomas. A great throw by Alex Smith. Put it where only Thomas could get it. And that was all the points that Washington needed to win their first division title since 2015. So I don't think it was like the best play in terms of difficulty, but in terms of importance, I think that was the play that got them to the playoffs. So I'm going to go with that one.
You know where I got to go with this? Postseason, wild card, Heineke in the end zone.
Oh, no! You might have to cut that.
Man. Either way, we're just going to roll past that and just say that Heineke had the best play of the year. The pocket maneuverability, the dive in the end zone, chasing, pointing at his last name. That's box office, and that's all you really want for out of a player. Finally, real quick, best position coach of the year. Who do you got?
Got to go with the super stud offensive line coach, Johnny Matsko.
Oof.
We never got to talk to him because he just doesn't. I guess he doesn't like to talk to the media.
He ain't got time for us.
But he doesn't need to because he's above us. He is that good of an offensive line coach. What he was able to do with this group this year, with the injuries, with having to move players around, with having so many new players. Like, not only did he come in new, but he had so many new players that came in and they had to mesh with Morgan Moses and Brendan Sheriff. And he did a fantastic job. And he had two free agent guys that came in and played really well down the stretch. So I think he was huge, and everyone credits him for having that group gel together so well. And they have 4 of the 5 back. They want to get Brendan Sheriff back. So there's only reason to believe that this group is going to get better as the years go on.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Pete Hainer. Pete Hainer is he's the guy that kind of grew on me. He was yelling at people.
Who didn't talk to the media.
No. But he was yelling at guys all training camp, and he turned a position group. Logan Thomas, see what he was able to do with him, saw the potential there, and then turning him into blockers. Sprinkle is a solid blocker. All the tight ends really excelled in their own way, and he was able to teach them some great Pro Bowl skills that he's learned, that he's able to pass on to guys like Delaney Walker and a bunch of other guys. So we'll just say, again, the older guys, the better, I guess you could say for the position coaches. So finally, before we move on into the end plugs and all that other stuff to cap off this podcast, and for the sake of consistency, even though we lost, we're going to be diving into the second round of the divisional playoff picks. And now we have Stevie joining us. What is going on, Stevie? How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you guys?
I'm doing stupendous. Very stupendous.
I'm doing great. Let me set the scene here before you start with the games, because I decided let's make it a little bit of a competition. Mm-hmm. So I went back and we all went 2-4, which, God, I hope nobody took our picks and tried to bet actual money with it, because I'm sorry. But I think we're going to do it like this. So we're going to do like 1 point for the last week's round, 1.5 for the divisional round, 3 for the conference championship, and 6 for the Super Bowl. So that each round adds up to 6. And we'll decide like a fun little prize with whoever wins at the end. But yeah, so we're all tied right now. So it's anyone's game.
All right, so let's go ahead and get started then. For the first game on Saturday, we have the Rams visiting Lambeau Field to take on the Green Bay Packers. So who you guys got for that game?
I'm going to go with the Packers. It's going to be cold in Lambeau Field. And Devonta Adams is a stud. Aaron Rodgers is, if he's not an MVP in your eyes, he's like up there, top 2 or 3 candidates. And that offense with Matt LaFleur is just rolling over literally anybody and everybody. So no matter where they are, in the snow, in the sleet, in the rain, you got to go with the Packers to me. Rams are a good story. They got the best defense, but Packers have an even better offense.
Yeah, there's a lot of reasons I would like to pick the Rams because their defense is really strong. And also Sean McVay, he knows Matt LaFleur pretty well, dating back to their days in Washington.
Yeah.
And Sean McVay's been he should be a coach of the year candidate with what he's been able to do with this defense this year. But I think just in Lambeau Field and that offense is just operating at too high of a level. And Aaron Rodgers, he should be the MVP in my opinion. And I don't think he's going to go down in the first round of the playoffs. So I think it's going to be close, but I'm going to have to take the Packers.
I think I'm also going to go with the Packers since they're coming off of, a rest week. They had a bye last week. So I'm also going to go with the Packers with a lot of unknowns with the Rams as well. So let's move on to the next game. We got the Ravens going to Buffalo to take on the Buffalo Bills.
You take this one first, Kyle.
Yeah, I'm most excited for this game. And I think the Ravens are going to upset them. I like the Bills. They've lost one game since mid-October, and it came on that Kyler Murray Hail Mary to DeAndre Hopkins. But I think the Ravens have won 6 in a row. They are running the ball at an insane rate, and the Bills do not stop the run very well. And Lamar, everyone got on Lamar. He can't win a playoff game, but I think he broke through last week against the Titans. He had an incredible touchdown run. And I think the Ravens might be a little bit of a team of destiny here. And I think the Bills run is going to end.
That's a very interesting point. I've been fighting this one pretty much as we're talking right now. So I think you almost convinced me, Kyle. You almost convinced me, but I think the Bills' offense, as good as the Ravens has been, is even better because Josh Allen is. Some people could consider to be MVP, and he's not that anymore, but he's still playing really good. Stephon Diggs, led the league in receiving yards. That offense is clicking, and the defense. Now I'm gonna give you a little bit of insight here. The Titans' defense is bad; they're just not good, and the Bills' defense is so much better. So much better. They're not Lamar. I don't think he's gonna have those rushing lanes that he had against the Titans. So I'm saying the Bills, they move on to the AFC Championship for the first time since the 90s. So that's what I got.
All right, this is not me copying Zach like last week, but I think the Bills as well. I don't know. There's honestly just something about them. They are one complete team, and I think they're also going to move on to the AFC Championship. So let's move on.
Saint Stevie. We have,
and it's not me. You've just been going first. It's not me choosing copying you. But all right, let's move on to the Sunday game. We have the Browns taking on the Kansas City Chiefs.
All right. I think we all probably have the same one, so I'll start with this. Mm-hmm. I'm going to go with the Chiefs. I really want to pick the Browns too, but I just don't think I can do it. And Zach is smiling while I say this, so I think he might be different. But the Chiefs, they have too much firepower. I think if they can get ahead of the Browns, it's going to be hard for them to come back with their run-heavy attack. I think the Browns, if they can get ahead and they can really keep Mahomes off the field, that's the formula to win. But the Chiefs have just been so good this year, and they're just so explosive. And I just think they're going to be too much.
I'm pushing for the upset this week. I'm doing it. I'm going to go for it.
All right.
I'm saying the Browns are going to upset Mahomes and the Chiefs just because that running game with Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb, that's how you win in the playoffs. And Baker Mayfield, even though he was not playing well at all earlier in the season, he's doing what you need to do to operate that offense. And the defense is also pretty underrated, I would say, as well. So if you can keep Mahomes off the field with that rushing attack, you have a pretty good chance to beat the Chiefs. and it's even gonna be at Arrowhead. So I'm saying that the Browns pulling off the massive upset, shocking the NFL because it's still the remnants of the 2020 season. So I'm gonna go with 2020 giving us one last jab at the unexpected and saying they beat the Chiefs.
All right. I actually do think this is going to be a lot closer of a game than people expect, but I think the Chiefs are going to pull it out. It's at Arrowhead. It's their territory. I think the Browns are hungrier, but I think the Chiefs will pull it out.
Also, Baker Mayfield, 1 interception the past 10 games.
He's due for one.
Yeah, exactly. So,
all right, let's move on. The last game we have Tom Brady and Drew Brees. I think there was some stat that this is the first time that 2 quarterbacks are playing each other that are over the age of 40 in a playoff game. So who you guys got for this game? It's in New Orleans too.
Let's have Stevie start. Let's
so
she can't copy either of us.
All right. I think I'm going to go with Tom Brady and the Buccaneers because the Saints kind of destroyed the Buccaneers twice this year, and I just don't think that there's any way the Buccaneers are going to let them do that to them again for a third time this season.
Zach?
Nobody told us that the Senior Bowl was going to be held in New Orleans this year, so it took y'all a little bit, but
it took me a second. Good one.
Well, that was all time. That was all time podcast material.
Yeah, I looked at Kyle like, "What's this inside joke you guys have going on?" He was just as confused.
I thought Zach lost it for a second.
I will say the Bucs are going to not upset the Saints, but I think they're going to beat them. It's going to be a really close one because that rivalry is intense. They don't like each other, and it's hard to. And Kyle walks away. Apparently he's done with this take, but I'll continue to rant on. I think that the Bucs offense is clicking at the right time. They're finally getting in sync. I think Bruce Arians and Brady have sort of figured out their proverbial marriage of systems. Oh, well, so you can see what Kyle's going to have later, but I got to go with the Bucs. Mike Evans is sensational. Gronk is Gronk. Brady is Brady. The defense is also really good. All due respect to Breeze, he's had a great career, but Bucs all the way.
All right, so I got my broom right here because this is a clean sweep. I'm going with the Bucs. It's very hard to beat a team 3 times. The Bucs offense is clicking. I think it's going to be close, but Tom Brady, I mean, he's got this thing rolling. It took a while. I'm going with the Bucs. They're going to meet the Packers in the NFC Championship game, and I'm going to put this broom away.
I think that would be the first team in NFL history to host a Super Bowl.
That would be awesome.
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
It's possible.
I wonder how many years that would be, like if it does happen, how many years it would be in between for it to happen again.
Probably you'd have to have somebody similar to Brady's skills, which is once in a lifetime. Maybe Mahomes, but I doubt they'll have a Super Bowl in Arrowhead.
I mean, the next time that FedEx hosts.
That was a very good company answer, Kyle. I like that.
I'm a company man.
With that said, this has been the rundown. But before we leave, we got to do it the off-season plugs. Let's go, because Stevie apparently said I had low energy, so I'm going to bring the heat today. This is an official podcast of the Washington Football Team. You can check us out wherever you find your podcast: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, Stitcher, TuneIn, all the places. YouTube now, every single week, every single episode of the off-season rundown. Check us out on the Twitters at Zach D. Selby, at Kyle Stackpole, and Kath_Stevie. Don't look for a burner account because she apparently doesn't have one in reality.
I don't have one. I promise everyone I do not have a burner account.
And be sure wherever you check out this episode, please rate, review, subscribe, give us 5 stars, all the positive vibes or negative vibes, I guess, if you really want to, because we like to bring the best content all the time, every time. So we appreciate all you guys. You help keep the lights on, help pay the bills, and we want to make the content that you guys care about because we love you guys. We really do. And we can't wait to give you the best content for the offseason, for the draft, for your agency. We're going to be here for it all. It's the offseason, y'all. And hunker down because it's going to be an exciting one. For Zach Selby, why am I introducing myself? For Kyle and Stevie, I'm Zach. The energy got too hyped for me. This has been The Rundown.
For more than 100 years, Chesapeake Employers Insurance has been helping Maryland businesses keep their workers safe. With competitive pricing and an AM Best A- financial strength rating, it's no surprise that Chesapeake Employers is Maryland's largest writer of workers' comp insurance.
At the end of every workday, someone's waiting for your safe return.
Connect with your agent or visit CEIWC.com.
Reliable power from Novec keeps us connected to so many good things. Life-saving equipment and life-affirming moments depend on reliable, safe electricity that keeps us plugged in and powered up. And as a not-for-profit cooperative owned by the people it serves, Novec keeps rates low and service high. Novec, keeping life bright.
Hey, Mid-Atlantic, it's me, Winter. Just a heads up, I'm gonna ice and snow all week, but if you're driving a Honda, you'll be fine. And right now, your local Honda dealer has big deals on the entire all-wheel drive Honda lineup. CR-V, HR-V, Pilot, Passport, and more. With real-time all-wheel drive and all the safety features included with Honda Sensing, like a collision mitigation braking system and adaptive cruise control. Oh, and don't forget to turn on your heated seats. It's gonna get cold. Sorry. See your local Honda dealer today.
You start your day with a multivitamin. You get to work and you multitask. You eat a sandwich on multigrain. But maybe there's one multi that you've been missing. Play Multi-Match from the Maryland Lottery. It's an exciting draw game where jackpots start at $500,000 and grow from there. Plus, you get 4 chances to win. And Multi-Match is only played in Maryland. Drawings are every Monday and Thursday. So go ahead, give Multi-Match a try and watch your fun multiply. Please play responsibly.
Not in this Pepsi either. Maybe I need to set the mood.
What is Jim doing?
He heard each can of Pepsi unlocks a Super Bowl halftime experience, so he's been opening Pepsi cans all morning trying to find it.
Shouldn't you tell him he has to, scan the can?
Nah, I'm sure he'll catch on.
No halftime experiences in this one either?
Or not. Scan the can and tune in to CBS on February 7th to catch the Pepsi Super Bowl 55 halftime show.